Hey guys, welcome to this week's edition of Forever Kayla. I'm sitting here with my friend Solomon Yeagley, who is a production assistant on Blackish. I met Solomon a couple years ago now. It's been a couple years already. He actually was my intern. Well, not my intern personally, but he was an intern there. And then, he moved up to a PA. And now he's a PA over at Disney, and so that's amazing. You're kind of moving on through the ranks. So I don't know if you want to explain like what you majored in, what made you want to be in the industry.
Sure. Well, I went to San Francisco State for cinema, and I graduated there in 2015. I took a year to save up. I was living back home in Lodi, where I was a substitute teacher. And then my intentions were to move here to Los Angeles. In December of 2017, I moved to Sun Valley. And for a few months, I was just living off savings, trying to figure out what I was going to do, because moving from a small town to somewhere sprawling like Los Angeles can be a little overwhelming. So, I was applying places, not having much luck. I drove for Uber for a month and wasn't crazy about it.
What do you exactly want to do in the industry? What is your ultimate goal or accomplishment?
Writing is my passion, for sure. I really love writing. So that's just something more, still a direction I'm going in. My first position, as you were saying, I was an intern in reality TV talk shows, and that was still so far away from where I wanted to be, but now I'm at least in scripted TV, so it feels like I'm slowly moving that direction.
So what drove you to want to be in the industry and tell these stories?
I would say a lot of that comes from, I guess I would say I was in 6th grade through like 7th to 8th grade when my parents got Netflix at its earliest level, and it was like through the mail, DVDs. And my small town, we had like a Blockbuster and a Hollywood. We didn't really have many options for watching more out there stuff. So when that opened up with Netflix, my parents would always be getting these really more out there interesting films, and being exposed to that, I think, really got me interested in writing.
No, you're so quiet of a person. I feel like when I first met you, I almost feel like I scared you in a way, like because I'm like the loudest one in the area or whatever when you were working. I feel like I'm always talking, but the work was always getting done. But then it's like I was the only person, I feel like, out of the room. I was the only black girl too, guys. It's okay. But I feel like I was the only one in the room to be like, hey, are you bored? Do you need something to do? Because I have a lot of stuff that I can give you. In that moment, what would you tell someone when you have a producer or someone that, even if you're not directly answering to them, and you're interning or whatever, and they give you an opportunity, do you take it? Or do you not?
I would definitely say the worst thing you can do in any position is nothing, because, and I can say from seeing other PAs in this position where maybe they're new to the industry and they're just really intimidated, they're nervous, they don't know, like, oh, I don't want to overstep my boundaries. And a lot of people see that, but they won't see the fear necessarily. They'll just see someone who's doesn't have any get up and go drive. They just see someone who's sitting behind a desk but not accomplishing anything. You definitely don't want to do anything you shouldn't do, but at the same time, if someone's coming to you for work, or you should be asking, like, is there anything I can do to help make things smoother? I mean, that's a big one.
What is the biggest downfall that you've seen in people like yourself? You're working with, just different PAs on different projects, or different interns on different projects now for the last few years. What's caused you think, to move up faster than some of the ones that maybe are not?
Well, I'll say one thing is, it's easy to get cynical too. I think a lot of people have like a chip on their shoulder, and then also they get too comfortable. They're not they'll talk about what they're ready to do, but then when it comes down to it, they're not ready to make that step. I mean, they're not really taking steps towards making it happen. So much of the industry is like being in the right place at the right time, who you know, and then your work ethic, and it's varying combinations of those three things. And also your attitude. Where you work, you will make connections that can help you down the line. So you definitely don't want to, be rude to people. And honestly, like where I work right now, I work with some incredible people. Everyone gets along so well. Whereas when I was working, in that other field, people just seem so bitter, and it's just so, everyone feels that way. It becomes a little miserable, and no one wants that. Like, I look forward to going to work now, whereas other shows I worked on, it's like, God, like you can't enjoy your weekend because you're just dreading going back.
How's it working on a show that's a predominantly African American cast?
It's great. I mean, everyone on the cast is like, there are people you know of, like celebrities, where you know, you see them on TV or in social media and they seem very nice, but then you meet them and they're not at all.
Trash.
Everyone on the show is the best. Like, they're so incredible and polite and friendly, and that extends to the crew too. And that's one thing I say also is a lot of the crew, you know, behind the scenes, is an incredibly diverse show on camera and off camera. I mean, it's incredible because, you know, there's integrity there. I mean, it's a show that, like the directors, I'd say most of the directors have been African American or people of color, and you know, because that's a complaint I often hear, is just that, you know, a lot of shows maybe are more diverse with their actors, but then when it comes to behind the scenes, you see it's predominantly still very white, you know, a lot of white guys.
My last question I have for you is, what would you tell your younger self, like 5 years ago? If there's one thing you could tell yourself.
I would absolutely have moved here sooner. I probably would have moved here right after college, because there was that 1 year gap between taking the tools I learned in film school versus, you know, then I taught and then I moved here, so there was that separation. But the biggest thing I would say is to be much more outgoing with trying to make connections with the industry, like in person, not to be intimidated. Most people who are working in the industry are more than happy to see what they can do about connecting you. I mean, so many of my friends who move here, they just send out blind resumes online to all these applications, a lot of them being scams, like I said, or, you know, non-paying jobs, and that's just so disconnected, and they've had no success. Like, to this day, years have gone by and they still haven't really broken through into the industry. It's all about meeting people, making friends, you know, showing people your best self.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Sure thing.
I'm sure I will see you again, Solomon.
Sounds good.